Good evening. I'd like to call to order the City of West Bend Plan Commission meeting for September 6th. Note that we do have a quorum with Commissioner Schmidt excused. I do want to acknowledge for both the public and the commission the sudden unfortunate passing of Commissioner Jim Knepler. He was one of our newest commissioners, but certainly played a valuable role these past couple months. So please keep his family in your thoughts and prayers. And with that, please join me to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And just so the commission is aware, I will need to leave the meeting at about 6:30 for another commitment. So at that time, if we're still speaking, then I'll pass it over to Alderman Model to chair at that time. But until then, we can boogie and get through this fast. So I'll note that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 agenda items on the agenda. The first being approval of the minutes, the Plan Commission regular meeting minutes from August 2nd.
Motion to approve.
Second. Thank you, Model and Starl. Any comments or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor, so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That passes. On to development proposals and zoning amendments. Number 1, ZA-22-005. A public hearing for a zoning amendment request to rezone approximately 0.69 acres of land from M2 Heavy Industrial District to I-1 Institutional and Public Service District located north of 450 East Water Street by Washington County. The applicant is Washington County and the agency is Family Promise of Washington County of 724 Elm Street. We're going to start with a presentation by our business and development planner, Jim Ranke, and we'll take it from there.
All right, good evening. This zoning request is for approximately 0.69 acres located north of that 450 Water Street. The zoning request is the rezone from the M2 Heavy Industrial to the I-1 Institutional and Public Service District. This rezoning is to acknowledge the actual current use of the institutional use that the county has, and also to help accommodate for the development and future purchase of this property for Family Promise. This would eventually be connected or divided and connected to the existing site for the Family Promise site. The rezoning is consistent with the 2020 comprehensive plan. All property owners within 200 feet were notified of the zoning change, and staff received no comments or concerns pertaining to the rezoning of the property. So staff would recommend approval of the property from the M2 to I-1 to the Common Council for final approval.
Thank you, Jim. And this is a public hearing, so I'll open up a public hearing. If anybody from the public would like to speak on this item, feel free to come on up. Otherwise, look for a motion.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you, Model and Fleischman. All those in favor of ending the public hearing, so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And then we're looking for action on the zoning amendment.
Motion to approve.
Second. Thank you, Model and Newman. Any questions on this? Hearing none, all those in favor, so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Moving on to B, conditional use permits. Number 1, CU-22-010, a public hearing for request for conditional use permit to allow retail sales as an accessory use to the permitted warehousing, distribution, and wholesale use in M2 Heavy Industrial District at 110 East Decorah Road by Adam Williquette of American Commercial Real Estate. The applicant is Joel Lederhouse of JKA Enterprises, and the agent is Williquette of American Commercial. Jim.
Thank you. So Dropbox is requesting a conditional use permit to allow the retail sales as an accessory to the permitted warehousing, distribution, and wholesaling use for that building. And it's also a permitted use under the M2 Heavy Industrial. The request is for a secondary use in there, which is accessory to the warehousing for the sales. They would like to have a showroom there and also sell product directly and warehouse and distribute from the remaining portions of the building. So an operations letter has been submitted as part of the requirements. The hours of operations would be Mondays from noon to 6 p.m. They're closed Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and then Thursdays and Fridays from noon to 6 p.m. again, and then also Saturdays and Sundays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. They're looking at employing 3 to 5 people on site during the hours of operations. There is ample parking that is shared with the existing building to the east on that. Owners within 200 feet were notified of the conditional use and the public hearing. We received one general inquiry, and the individual had no comments or concerns pertaining to the use. Staff would recommend approval of the conditional use of the retail sales operations as an accessory in accordance with the operations letter.
Thank you, Jim. Once again, this is a public hearing, so if anybody from the public would like to speak on this item, feel free to come on up.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you, Model and Starl. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Then I'll open up if there's an approval of that conditional use permit.
Just a question.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I've purchased from these folks and they were awesome, really friendly, and a really good business. But is this going to be in addition to, or are they shutting down the other location?
No, they're currently operating. The reason why we had to do this is we found that they were operating the retail use out of the current location on Decorah.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry.
So
Okay, I couldn't tell from the photo
Yep.
if that was a new location.
So we're doing the
Okay.
formality of doing the conditional use because it
Got
is
it,
an
got it.
accessory to the permitted use of the warehousing.
For sure. Okay, motion to approve then.
And then I'll ask for a second.
I'll second it, and I had a question.
Yep, go ahead.
In their letter, they refer to signage. They're going to apply for signage, which is fine, but it refers to swooper flags. Do you know what that is?
I'm not sure. I'm wondering if they're like the fins that are.
Do we allow that?
We do allow them on it. Sorry. We do allow them. They're the flag or those pennant banners, single pole type thing. We do allow them on a temporary basis. There's a time limit for those as well, and they also have to be within their properties.
Sure.
And they have used them in the past. We just haven't pointed out. We basically didn't. We wanted to get this so we can get their permanent signage to alleviate the need for using those as much.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
I will,
Yes,
I
sir.
will abstain.
Okay, thank you. Then with that, we do have a motion second, so I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, and that passes with one abstention. Moving on to number 2, CU-22-009, a public hearing for request for a conditional use permit to allow for the conversion of a two-family home to a single-family home located at 301 and 303 East Paradise Drive by Beverly Kraemer. The applicant is her of that same address, and the agent is the same. Jim.
Thank you. This conditional use request is needed for the conversion of a two-family residential unit to a single-family. Our code has provisions that allows for duplexes to be converted to a single-family use upon approval of a conditional use permit, as long as the buildings are aesthetically compatible with the surrounding areas. The property owner is requesting this. They are proposing to mostly do interior renovations, which would include opening up the walls in between some of the rooms, eliminating stairwells to the basement, and then also doing some minor exterior changes with painting and cleaning up the exterior of the building. All property owners were notified within 200 feet. Staff received no comments or concerns regarding the conversion to a single-family dwelling. In staff's opinion, the building is architecturally compatible with the surrounding areas that we have. We have a duplex over to the east, and then to the west, there's a multifamily building there. And with the screening and everything, it seems to fit in appropriately with the area that's there. So staff would recommend approval of that with the condition that the appropriate permits for modifying the interior of the building be issued by building inspection.
Thanks so much. Once again, this is a public hearing, so if anybody from the public would like to speak on this item, feel free to come on up.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you. All those in favor of any of the public hearings, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And then we're looking for a motion to approve the conditional use permit with conditions. Thank you. I'll give the Newman and Fleischman.
Question. And just
I'm sorry. What?
just a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Jim, I'm sorry, I didn't catch it, but did you say you had or had not heard from anybody in the office?
We have not heard.
Okay.
We've had no concerns or comments or any inquiries in regarding the change.
I have a question too. Do we know the lateral situation? If it was 2 units, did they have separate laterals or for water and sewer, or was it?
That I don't know, to be honest with you. It might be one, since this is such an old building.
Because
we were told
in the letter they were saying that it was originally a single house, then it was transformed into 2 units.
Right.
But I'm not sure if laterals were added at that time.
Yeah,
and then,
that part I don't know either.
Okay.
They were, yes. There's two water meters.
And so it's going to stay that way? Did we talk to sewer and water about that?
Well, I mean, first we want to cross this bridge.
Sir, just real quick, if we're going to keep talking, do you mind jumping up to the microphone? And if you could state your name and address for us.
Sure. Sean Kraemer, it's 303 East Paradise.
Thank you.
So, like Jim was saying, originally it was a single-family dwelling. About 100 years ago, they did an addition onto it, and I'm not 100% sure when they added the extra utilities, but they were installed into the basement. Last year, they did new electrical onto the building, but we wanted to make sure that everything was approved before we started switching things around, just to have to redo stuff.
Sure. And I'm not saying anything needs to be switched. I just want to make sure that you check with our utilities, because then you're going to have one address and you may have 2 meters, and I don't know what the rules and requirements are with that, if you're going to need to make some modifications. So
yeah.
just talk to the utilities, please, and then figure that out with them.
Absolutely.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
Any other questions?
Sounds good. Thank you. And with that, I will call for a vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, and that passes. On to number 3, CU-22-011 for a request to amend the conditional use permit for the expansion of the emergency shelter for additional beds in support of individual housing apartments located at 450 East Water Street by Family Promise of Washington County. The applicant is Family Promise, and the agent is the same. Jim. Oh, I'm sorry. This is actually part of 3 items, I forgot to say. So let me read off these other 2, and then we can have a whole summary. This goes along with the CSM 22-011, which is one lot certified survey map to combine the existing lot with additional lands to the north, located at 450 East Water Street by Washington County. And then the site plan, SP-22-012, which is a site plan for the construction of a 10,200 square foot building addition to the emergency shelter located at 450 East Water Street by Family Promise. All that is Family Promise, with the agent being John Wallenkamp of CUNY Architects. All right, now take it away.
Thank you. As the mayor said, I'm going to give a brief on all 3 of these items that we have. So Family Promise has submitted a certified survey map along with, on behalf of Washington County, to actually combine. They're acquiring 30,000 square feet, which is located north of their existing facility. And that certified survey map is to combine these 2 chunks into one for the expansion of their facility. They've also submitted an amendment or a request to amend their conditional use permit. We had an original conditional use permit approved back in June of 2017 to operate the emergency shelter. At the time, the request was for 14 individual beds and 4 supportive housing apartments. This request that they're submitting tonight is to expand that for an additional 18 beds and then another additional 4 housing apartments. The zoning code requires and regulates CBRFs and emergency shelters underneath our code, and requires a conditional use permit to be issued prior to the operations of the facility. An operations letter has been provided for the shelter. It'll be open 24 hours and staffed 24 hours a day also. As a part of the request, we did the public notice and informed everyone within 200 feet of the property. Staff did receive 1 inquiry expressing some concerns with the expansion of the facility. and the possible effects that could happen in the area from the expansion. But other than that, staff had not received any other inquiries pertaining to the expansion for the conditional use or for the site plan portion itself. The building portion itself for the building addition is approximately 10,000 square feet. They're looking to add on to the north of the building using a connecting hallway to the existing building, and then also adding some office space in the southwest and southeast sides of the building on either side of the existing. Those are going to be used for offices and conference center or a conference room there. The site plan has been modified to relocate the screened refuse area, which will be relocated to the east side of the site. And that will be a split-face block refuse area matching the color of the building. During review, staff did have some concerns with the location of that, and since it does coincide with parking for the site, so staff would recommend that the parking stalls in front of the refuse area be limited to staff parking. So when they do pick up refuse, that if there are vehicles parked on site in front of that they could be moved easily for the refuse collection. The site plan still has the same access to East Water Street. They will be expanding a parking lot on the north side of the building, just north of the building addition, and they will be providing 37 standard parking stalls with 2 barrier-free, which is adequate for that institutional use. Stormwater management amendment is required for the development and has been submitted to the engineering department for review. The grades themselves have been generally designed to drain to the stormwater pond to the north and also to the south, which ultimately drain out to the southeast corner of the site. There are some concerns with some of the grades in between the existing building and the proposed building, so staff would recommend that that they would review that area again to eliminate any possible ponding, and it may require some minor revisions to the grading plan to accommodate those changes. Adequate landscaping is provided throughout the site. Staff did notice that that there would be one revision needed, and that's just to provide some landscaping around the refuse area. Site lighting will be added to the site with 2 20-foot tall light poles located on the north side of the parking lot on the north end of the building. The architectural building elevations identify the gray colored stone matching the existing stone, along with a gray colored cement board siding matching the existing siding. Staff would also recommend approval of this site plan with the conditions listed. We also would recommend approval of the conditional use in accordance with the operations letter, and also approval of the certified survey map with the listed conditions.
All right, we'll try to take one thing at a time here. The first is the conditional use permit, and this does have a public hearing, so I'll open it up to the public. If anybody from the public would like to speak on this item, feel free to come on up.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you, Bottle and Starl. All those in favor of ending the public hearings, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And then we'll open it up to the commission for a motion on that item.
Can I just
Or a
ask a
question.
question about?
Yep.
Was it?
No, go ahead.
Can I just ask a question about the conditional use permit? There obviously there's a building already there, and this is just for my information, so I apologize I wasn't able to call you guys in advance and ask you this, but so when there's a conditional use permit that already exists for the site, we're amending it to the increased square footage? And whatever other revisions are making to the site, is that?
Yes, so the reason why we have to amend the conditional use is because we're expanding the use.
Okay.
And the original conditional use permitted the original.
Oh, okay, yep.
The original beds and the original.
So it's kind of a new situation they're presenting. Gotcha.
Correct. This is an expansion of it.
Yeah. And are we putting a salon in this one now? Anyway, I cut hair over there, so.
There might be an offer for you, right?
Right.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. Nope.
So someone from Family Promise is here? could you step up because I'm going to have a question.
And if you don't mind introducing yourself for the commission.
I'm Lori Prescott. I'm the Executive Director of Family Promise of Washington County.
Okay, thanks. So, just to make it clear, I have been very supportive of Carl's Place from even before it opened, and I'm not as familiar with Family Promise, but I don't have any access to grind with either organization. Neither does the police department. I did check. I inquired of the police department about calls for service at both locations and do they have any concerns. They see advantages to consolidating both operations into one place, and they're only and they do they generate calls? Yes, nothing that's unusual. And many times the call is because a staff member has called with a concern, but it wasn't necessarily something that was horrible. Okay, so the police department doesn't have any concerns. That's the important thing. But they wanted to find out. They wanted to make sure that there'll be adequate staffing, that when you combine both these operations, you're going to have enough staffing to match the number of people that you might be caring for. So
Sure,
if you
so
can
let me
address
clarify.
that.
So Family Promise of Washington County is one organization that has two locations. It's Promise Center and Carl's Place.
Okay.
Promise Center holds all of our families, and Carl's Place holds all of our individual males and females. What we're doing essentially is having all of the family services move over to the Carl's Place location so that everyone can be served in one hub instead of having two locations any longer. And yes, we will be staffing that because Promise Center staff, there's Promise Center staff there, Carl's Place has staff there. We're moving all of the staff, as well, to be staffed 24/7, as well as having, because there's double capacity in one location, that staffing will match that.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions while we have her up here? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And then I'm just looking for a motion on that conditional use permit.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Monel and Olnick. If there's no other questions, then all those in favor of the conditional use permit, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And then moving on to the CSM, we need approval for that.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Monel and Fleischman. Any questions on this? Hearing none, all those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And then for the site plan.
Second.
Thank you, Olnick and Monel. Any questions on this?
I have some.
Yes, sir.
Is it going to stay open during the construction?
Yeah.
My guess would be,
You said yeah. Yeah.
are they-
Okay.
It's all right.
Is the construction site and Carl's Place going to share the same driveway?
yeah, it's all one.
During construction, they're going to share that?
Yeah, we would end up, I don't know any other way that we could separate that besides going cross-country through the county property. But it would share same access for the time being.
Okay. And I just want to say good luck getting drainage out of those cubby holes.
Duly noted. All right, we got a motion and second here. Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the site plan, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Congrats on your expansion. And moving on to E, Extraterritorial Certified Survey Maps. Number 1, XCSM 22-010, two-lot extraterritorial certified survey map located at 1822 East Decorah Road in the town of Trenton by Eric and Kathy Lentz. The applicant and agent are them as well. Jim.
Thank you. The certified survey map is located directly east of the city corporate limits on the north side of Decorah Road. The purpose of the CSM is to create two residential lots, one for future home construction, and the other one has the existing home on it. The CSM is located within the city's sewer service area and is identified as single-family residential in our 2020 comprehensive plan. Lot 1 is a little over 13 acres and has the existing home, and Lot 2 is just under 3 acres and is vacant. It would be used for the construction of the new home. 41.25 feet of right-of-way exists for Decorah Road, and an additional 8.75 feet is being dedicated to the public for road purposes, which also creates the 50-foot half right-of-way that is necessary in accordance with our city's official map for the overall 100-foot right-of-way. Some minor technical corrections are needed on the CSM prior to recording, and those comments will be sent over to the surveyor and the owner under a separate document through our office. Staff would recommend approval with the condition that the minor corrections be made.
Thank you, Jim. We do not need a public hearing on this, so open up to the commission in case anybody has any questions or would like to make a motion.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Model and Starl. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And last but not least, we have F, Comprehensive Plan Number 1. Discussion and recommendation to set a public hearing for a change in the recommended land use from industrial and institutional to mixed use, the 2020 Comprehensive Plan for the City of West Bend for land located along Sand Drive, south of Decorah Road and north of Eastern Avenue by the City of West Bend, Department of Development, and the applicant and agent are us. Jim.
Thank you. So, staff is requesting the Plan Commission to consider a change in our 2020 comprehensive plan for the area along Sand Drive, just south of Decorah Road and north of Eastern Avenue. The purpose of this change is to help facilitate the redevelopment of the area. The lands on the west of Sand Drive are identified as industrial, and that existing legacy industrial use may no longer be the most and best recommended use for the area. The parcels on the east side of this area are governmental and institutional uses and recognize the current ownership owned by the church for this. A change in land use designation to mixed development is recommended or is being requested for consideration to help foster the redevelopment of the area and allows uses more suitable to the location and for the site configurations due to the site sizes. The change in the mixed use would encourage the provision for adequate utilities and infrastructure to these substandard, to this segment of substandard street. The lands currently are zoned B4, which is the general business and warehousing district, along with M2 heavy industrial and the I1 institutional and public service district. If the land use change would be found to be an acceptable use for this area, staff would recommend that the area be rezoned to the MXD, mixed use zoning district, to help facilitate the redevelopment of the area. Staff has reviewed the surrounding uses in this area and feels that the mixed use land use would be a compatible use with the existing other uses in the area, and would be most appropriate use in the area for redevelopment. If the Plan Commission finds that this use could be an acceptable use for the area and a change, staff would recommend that the Plan Commission set a public hearing for November 1st of 2022 at the 6 o'clock Plan Commission meeting to hear any comments or concerns pertaining to the land use change. At the same meeting, if this would move forward with a recommendation to the Common Council for the land use change, we would also hold a public hearing for the rezoning from the industrial, business, and institutional use to the MXD mixed-use zoning district.
Thanks, Jim. We'll open up to commission if anybody has any feedback or questions. Otherwise, we're just looking for a recommendation. Yes, sir.
Okay. It seems like this is moving in the right direction as far as the neighbors concerned. As far as anyone else in the public would want this to be more mixed use than industrial, anyways, right? So we're not going to get a lot of negative feedback on that, you think?
Well, public hearing is a great place to find out.
I know, but what would we anticipate there? I mean, is it a waste of time to even set a public hearing, I guess is the question?
No, I think it's appropriate. We wouldn't have brought this to you without, or with a recommendation for a public hearing. We have a substandard road. It's a rural section road without sidewalk on at least one side. It doesn't have sewer within the road. It doesn't have water within the road. It has essentially legacy zoning for the adjoining lands to the west, and the current comprehensive plan recognizes that past legacy zoning in its recommendation.
I see, okay.
In order to foster redevelopment, you have to have sufficient value suitable for the area to have enough investment within it to overcome those problems.
Okay.
And this is the first step. Whether there are other steps is a different discussion. We wanted to bring it forward to you. I will say that the owners of the property were made aware of this and didn't express any concerns.
Okay.
It doesn't lock you into any specific development.
Mhm.
It doesn't lock you into a specific
We're out of.
zoning at this time.
Okay.
But we wanted to foster the discussion.
Okay.
And in order to do that, we felt it was appropriate to do public hearing and get it out there. So as part of this, then that public hearing will go out to the typical distribution for 200 feet from these properties, as well as have public notice.
Does it discourage a specific type of development?
It would probably preclude the industrial developments that could go into that, some of that zoning right now.
Okay.
It doesn't dissuade the commercial uses, because the MXD allows certain commercial uses by right. It wouldn't necessarily affect the use of the church ownership of their parcel, because vacant, open recreational lands would be a permitted use under MXD use, and we wouldn't foster them, but it would potentially give them additional development value should they wish to sell that land or develop it themselves.
Okay.
So we think it's a first step, but it's a judgment call, and it's Plan Commission's authority for the comprehensive plan, and the council as the final approving authority for the comprehensive plan and the zoning. So we felt that first step was to ask you if you wanted to proceed with this, and hence the request for public hearing.
Great. Commissioner Dolnick? No. You good? Any other comments, questions? All right, you want to make that a motion?
Yes.
All right, is there a second?
Second?
Thank you. It's been a motion seconded. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And having no further business for the Plan Commission, I adjourn by the call of the chair. Have a great night.